By the time the Limit 2 boxes signs go up, the real damage is already done behind the scenes. In 2025, I am watching powder shipments slip, primers get spoken for before they ever hit retail, and lawmakers quietly aiming new taxes at ammunition because they know most people will complain, pay, and move on. Add to that large-scale conflicts overseas burning through the same nitrocellulose and copper civilian ammo makers rely on, and you do not get a normal shortage, you get a slow squeeze that is building toward 2026, whether we like it or not. If you wait until the shelves are stripped bare to react, you will be standing in line with everyone else, hoping for scraps. At the same time, the concealed carry world itself is splitting in two. On one side, there are still people chasing raw muzzle energy and more power like it is 20 years ago. On the other side, the serious design work has shifted toward smarter performance, softer recoil, better control in real human hands, and bullets that behave intelligently through clothing and light barriers from short barrels. That second camp depends heavily on specialized loads and newer calibers, and those are exactly the ones that vanish first and come back last in a crisis. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 7 new or reborn carry calibers I am quietly stacking now, so you can decide what needs to be in your ammo cans before the 2026 crunch really hits. Item number 7 is 21 Sharp, the new rimfire kid that finally acts like a modern cartridge instead of a quirky cousin of 22 long rifle. Classic 22 uses a heeled bullet that hangs outside the case and wears a wax coat. 21 Sharp uses a jacketed projectile seated fully inside the brass. That small change gives you cleaner feeding, less sticky ammo, and more consistent accuracy in semi-automatic platforms. On the firing line, recoil is almost nothing, even for new shooters or older family members. You can run long practice strings without beating up hands and still ring steel at realistic training distances. For pest control and small game, it hits harder than standard 22 while staying quiet and controllable. The catch is that the whole ecosystem is brand new. Only a few rifles and very few loads exist, which means a single production decision can push it off the schedule for months. If you like what it offers, it makes sense to lay in a couple of bricks now rather than hope the factory keeps your favorite load in constant rotation. Item number 6 moves us into the revolver world with 32 H&R Magnum. Think of it as a J-frame plus 1. You keep the small frame size and deep concealment of a 5-shot snub, but you gain a 6th round and softer recoil than a light 38 Special plus P. With modern, deep, penetrating defensive bullets, 32 H&R finally hits that 12-inch penetration window from short barrels while still giving you clean expansion. From the shooter's seat, the difference is obvious. Instead of a rude snap that lifts the muzzle and smacks your palm, the recoil feels like a fast, controllable push. Older shooters and people with small hands can run controlled pairs without flinching. And the extra round in the cylinder is always welcome. Holsters, speed strips, and night sights exist for the new crop of small-frame 32 revolvers, so it is a viable carry path, not a dead end. The downside is supply. This is a classic batch-run caliber. When machines are running flat out on 9mm and 223, 32 H&R is a line that can quietly go dark. That is why I treat any 32 carry gun as a commitment and keep years' worth of defensive ammo on hand. Item number 5 stays in the small bore lane but shifts to 22 Magnum that is finally tuned for handgun self-defense. For decades, this round was built around rifles. People stuffed it into snub-nose revolvers and tiny pistols and then wondered why they got huge flash, ear-splitting blast, and very inconsistent expansion. The bullets were never designed to work at handgun velocity. The new defensive loads fix that with 40 grain-jacketed hollow points that use pre-cut jackets and the right powder blends to open up from short barrels instead of acting like little rifle rounds. On the range, that becomes a very interesting option. In a compact revolver or small pistol, you get recoil that is lighter than most micro 9mm guns, but clearly better performance than bulk 22 long rifle. Muzzle flip is mild, which encourages practice from people who hate sharp recoil, and gel tests finally show repeatable penetration and expansion instead of pure hype. For recoil-sensitive shooters, older family members, and anyone who only trusts a gun that feels tame, this might be the cartridge that keeps a firearm on their belt instead of in the safe. Like every specialty rimfire load, it lives on thin margins. When components tighten up, Factories will chase huge runs of plinking ammo before limited batches of premium 22 Magnum, so planning ahead is a lot cheaper than panic buying later. Item number 4 is hybrid trail ammunition that looks strange on paper but makes perfect sense if you live outside the pavement. These rounds stack a real jacketed hollow point on top of a small cloud of shot inside the same case. Old-school snake shot came in plastic capsules that rarely cycled semi-autos and were marginal even on snakes. The hybrids fix that by giving your pistol a full power bullet to work with while still dumping a swarm of pellets into the target at close range. Picture a common 9mm carry gun set up for ranch or backcountry duty. You load 1 or 2 hybrids on top of the magazine and standard hollow points underneath. At 5 to 7 yards, the shot pattern blankets the head and upper body of a snake or small predator, while the main bullet still behaves like a conventional hollow point on a 2-legged threat. Recoil and reliability feel like your normal defensive ammo, so you are not trading function for versatility. It is not the load for big bear country, and it is not how I would fill a pure home defense magazine, but as a top-of-mag tool for fence checks, hikes, or property work, it is extremely useful. Because it lives in a tiny niche, you cannot assume it will always be on the shelf, so one deliberate purchase can cover years of real-world use. Item number 3 is the flat-shooting outlier. The 5.7 by 28mm paired with modern tumble on impact projectiles. For years, this caliber lived in a small world of niche pistols and internet arguments. Now that several mainstream companies offer full-size pistols and carbines in 5.7, it has quietly grown into a legitimate defensive option. The heart of the system is a light, solid copper bullet driven very fast that stays point forward through glass and light barriers, then loses stability and tumbles hard when it hits soft tissue. From behind the gun, a full-size 5.7 pistol feels like a 9mm, with less recoil and more capacity. You get flat trajectory at handgun distances, easy hits on steel, and very quick follow-up shots. Barrier performance is better than the small bore size suggests, which matters if you live around vehicles or light structures. The trade-offs are cost and logistics. You need dedicated magazines, often a new holster, and ammo that costs more per round than ordinary 9mm. Solid copper bullets and the machining steps behind them are also very sensitive to raw material prices and factory time. If 5.7 is more than a range toy for you, treat it like a serious caliber and stock enough defensive ammo now to carry that role for years. Item number 2 brings us back to familiar pistol calibers, but with a very specific assignment, wilderness, and big animal defense from guns people actually carry. There is a huge difference between a full-size revolver in .44 Magnum that almost never leaves the truck and a compact 9 or 10mm that lives on your belt all day. Modern backcountry defensive loads bridge that gap by stuffing heavy, dangerous game-style bullets into those everyday semi-autos. In practice, that means a heavy-for-caliber bullet with a tough jacket and a flat or wide nose that resists expansion and stays together when it hits bone. In 9mm, these loads feel like stout plus P rounds. In 10mm, they move into medium Magnum revolver territory in terms of recoil. But you trade that extra snap for the ability to drive a bullet through a hog or black bear from less than ideal angles. If you hike, hunt, or work in bear or hog country, dedicating a couple of magazines of this stuff as your backcountry loadout is an easy win. The catch is that it sits on the edge of the catalog. When copper and lead costs spike or hunting seasons get unpredictable, low-volume specialty handgun ammo is one of the first things to be cut. Owning enough to prove your gun and keep a sealed backcountry reserve is part of a solid preparedness plan. Item number 1 is the least exotic on paper, but probably the most important in real life. A short-barrel, optimized 9mm defensive load built around modern micro-compact pistols. Instead of everyone walking around with compact double-stack duty pistols, we now see tiny optics-ready 9mm handguns with 10 to 15 round magazines riding in appendix holsters and pockets. Most of the classic defensive ammo on the shelf was designed around 4 and 5-inch barrels, so out of a 3-inch microgun, it often loses enough velocity that expansion becomes unreliable. Short-barrel-specific defensive loads fix that by pairing mid-weight bullets with powders that burn efficiently in small guns and cavity designs that still open up at lower velocity. On the range, you see snappy but manageable recoil, moderate flash that will not blind you at night, and impacts that line up with your sights at realistic distances. For an ammo strategy, this category matters more than boutique calibers. because this is what lives on nightstands and rides in holsters when normal people leave the house. Bulk ball and generic hollow points will be the first ammo that returns after a shortage. Purpose-built short-barrel defensive loads will be the last. So if your main defensive gun is a Micro 9, now is the time to build a 3-layer plan for testing, carry, and a sealed reserve. My advice? Take a hard look at the guns you actually carry, the environments you live and work in, and the loads that truly fit those roles, instead of hoarding every box of ammunition in town. For me, that means a rimfire hedge that behaves like a trainer, small bore and revolver options for people who hate recoil, hybrid, and big animal loads that match the way I live outside the pavement, and a short barrel 9mm that keeps my little carry guns honest, and do it now while shelves still look mostly full today. If walking through these 7 calibers helped you think about your own ammo plan for 2026 and beyond, let me know in the comments which ones you are already stacking and which ones you still need to add. Hit like if this brought you value, subscribe if you want more straight talk on carry guns and defensive gear, and share this with a friend who keeps saying they will buy ammo tomorrow. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.